Digging through the past is not that hard. Rusted cars and broken shards, mining memories in an old wrecking yard. Echoes of laughter, whispers of pain. Time stands still, but the memories remain in this graveyard of...
Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wendell Longmire, and y'all are presumably still y'all. Always with the hope for some new ears in the crowd. All are welcome in the Church of Internal Combustion. We just ask that you show up with an open heart. So excited to welcome y'all back to the studio for season 2. But before we get cracking, let's thank our sponsors for bringing the Wrecking Yard to fruition today. We got our old buddy, Daniel Pulliam, with Pulliam Training Stables. You can reach them at thetrainedhorse.com. They're training stables down in South California. They're owned and operated by Mr. Pulliam. It's a family business with decades of experience training horses and instructing. They offer lessons to all ages, even old people like me who are a little scared of horses. They do private one-on-one lessons, which that's the easiest way for me to learn. I don't like group lessons. And then they have custom lesson programs for children and adults with disabilities. And if you've read anything about equine treatment, equine therapy with disabilities, and PTSD, it's pretty amazing stuff they're doing. It almost makes me like horses. But they got horse trainings for horses of all levels and ages. So not only can they help you get you a well-trained horse that you're going to be happy with for many years, your children are going to be safe with, but they're also going to teach you how to take care of that horse, how to manage that horse, and how to make that horse trust you. So check them out, thetrainedhorse.com, Pulliam Training Stables, our good buddy Daniel Pulliam here at the Wrecking Yard Podcast. And of course, it wouldn't be complete if we didn't bring up our good friends who are moving with us into season 2, the Ep1 Racers Podcast. These guys have been our longest sponsors. It's a podcast about amateur endurance racing. I'm a huge fan of it. It's my go-to when I get on the road and I need something to listen to. The stories, these guys, it's 3 guys and a gal, and they all race. They all do some kind of amateur endurance racing. Some of them race together sometimes. The stories they tell from the tracks is worth the price of admission alone. But racingjunk.com is also like my favorite guilty pleasure, is just to hear whatever they're selling on racingjunk.com and what I might need to buy and take up a piece of my backyard with. Go check them out. It's one of my favorite podcasts, Ep1 Racers Podcast. Thank you guys for continuing to be a great sponsor for the Wrecking Yard Podcast. Boo! We did it, baby. Here at Alien Stingray Studios, we have thought long and hard about what kind of show would work for season 2. And we've added some special segments to the show to church it up just a little bit. Here to help me co-host for a little while today, you know him, you love him. He's got 2 Million Mile Safety Awards and 1 Purple Heart. He helped build the Golden Gate Bridge, the one and only Papaw. Oh, there, Sonny. Whoa, that's a hell of an introduction. You're going to have these folks thinking I walk on water over here when they ain't looking. Why would anyone want to walk on water when no one's looking? What's that, Sonny? I said, why would you walk on water where folks can see you? It's an expression, boy. That's your problem. Always looking for some extra attention. You've been that way ever since you was a kid. Pump the brakes, Papaw. This ain't about me. I was just trying to understand your expression that I've never heard anybody else say ever. Maybe you need to get out more. Experience to connect to the modern world and such. You watch Gunsmoke in black and white still. What are you talking about? And I hauled fine Kilgore ceramics toilet bowls all over this country to earn that Gunsmoke time too. I also watch that Jimmy Fallon fella to keep up with what the kids are doing. You watch Jimmy Fallon? Yeah, he always seems drunker than a bald owl. I like them little songs he does. Have you ever watched this show? Well, of course I have. I support all my grandkids. I reckon that last one I watched was about that old Charger your daddy had. That was the first episode. That was nearly 7 months ago. Well, it's pretty good. I like that part about my sales abilities. Clearly, it was so good you never watched it again.
Don't be a wise ass, Sonny. You ain't good at it. I'm a busy man. I ain't got time to sit around watching every little old thing you do.
I guess I should go get me a guitar and do some lip syncing.
Well, that might be a pretty good segment right there.
Well, speaking of good segments, we thought it'd be fun to let folks around the country ask you a few questions, or man, even for advice.
We? You got a mouse in your pocket?
I mean, we as you know what? Never mind. Just are you ready for the first caller?
Oh, knock yourself out. I'm full of good advice.
Don't I know it? All right, we got caller one queued up, Mr. Mike McKelvin.
Papaw, are you a true believer such as myself in the essential oils, Quaker State, Marvel Mystery Oil, and 3-in-1?
Well, you want your engine to burn oil? That's what you're gonna get messing with that old Quaker State. What makes you think a Quaker knows anything about oil? They ain't even got engines. No, sir, you want good running engine that ain't never burned a drop of oil. You need that good castor oil for that. Quaker States is what's left over after they get done making castor oil, sonny. Now that Marvel Mystery Oil is a real deal. I put a capful in every oil change on my Craftsman mower. Well, I've been running it pert there 32 years. Starts on the first time every time. If you got Marvel Mystery Oil, you don't need no 3-in-1 oil. Hell, just drop a little of that Marvel in there and you be good to go. Marvel's so good sometimes I rub a little on my knees when I need them to free up on a cold morning.
Papa, I don't think you should be putting petroleum on your skin like that.
I'll tell you what, when your knees walk as many miles as mine have, maybe you can tell me what I ought to do.
Fair enough. All right. We got our second caller lined up. All right, our second caller today is Toby Applegate.
What's the best way to get a rounded and rusted nut off of a head bolt without messing up the head bolt? There's a way without some fancy tool, guy, so I like to soak it in some CRC penetrator, saw a little notch, and start tapping it with a hammer and a chisel.
Well, first of all, Sonny, you working way too blame hard on one little old nut. Grab your wallet and a little bit of the folding money and run on down to the hardware store and get you some stuff called Kroll. It's spelled just like oil with a Kr in front of it. And drip you 2 drops of that Kroll on that nut and run over to the McDonald's and get you a large coffee. By the time you get back, that nut will be sitting on your workbench.
I was raised by crazy people.
Yeah, but they're on your mama's side. Next!
What the hell?
Well, I always wanted to say that.
All right, let's just do our third caller. It's Miss Kathy Cook. Play the audio.
Papaw, how did you know that Meemaw was the one?
Well, that's an easy one. So me and my brother Carl, we went out on a double date with Pauline and her sister, and they was from the farm down the road a piece. And her sister wasn't very good looking. That's how I knew Pauline was the one.
Wait. That's how you and Meemaw met? She just happened to live close to you?
That's right.
What if neither one of them had been pretty?
What if the moon was made out of cheese, Sonny? Don't ask stupid questions.
All right, Papa. Well, that's it for the phone Papaw segment.
Well, that's a good thing. I gotta get going so I can catch a gun smoke.
Yeah, maybe the Wrecking Yard podcast.
What? I ain't gonna make no promises, Sonny.
All right, Papa, y'all give it up. Papa will be back next week. Y'all make sure to post your questions to him. My Papaw Longmire was something else growing up. I didn't actually spend a lot of time with him when I was young because him and my dad didn't get along for a good deal of their lives. They didn't get along. They didn't see eye to eye, and as a result, we didn't spend much time around them when we were kids, other than them big family events where everybody was there. But like I spent most of my time with my maternal grandparents out in the wrecking yard. Papaw Longmire is every once in a while we would go Papaw and Meemaw's house and hang out, and I always enjoy those. My Papaw, for all his failures and flaws as a father, he was a pretty good grandpa, you know, and he wasn't mean to me. He was a cantankerous old dude and everything, and like I said, him and my dad didn't get along. Dad had a rough life growing up, but he he didn't treat his grandkids like that. You know, he was a different guy to his grandkids. We didn't have the stories that our parents did growing up with him. And it's sad. It's sad they were like that because the whole time I was growing up, me and my dad swore we would never that wasn't how we were going to operate. You know, that's not who we were going to be. And then, damn, if we didn't just take the same playbook and run it again, and it's almost the same story. It's it's really wild. You wouldn't think that could happen two generations in a row, but damn if we didn't do it again, you know. And we're working, you know. Me and old man are working on it. We're trying to do better, but I do remember this one time. Um, I guess I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, and my dad, you know, we always stayed with Papa and Granny, and my dad, and my mom got in an argument about something. And my dad decided we were going to go spend time with me, mom, and Papa. Damn it, because we had never go spend time with me, mom, and Papa. And sure enough, Granny loaded us up in the car and she took us over to Meemaw and Papaw's house for the day to hang out with Meemaw and Papaw. And that day lives in my mind. And I have other stories about Papaw Longmire, but that day really lives in my mind. It really, I guess I was probably about 9 or 10. It wasn't too long after I was probably about 9 or 10, maybe 11. Of course, my younger sister, who would have been 5 or 6 at the time, she just hung out with Meemaw, and Meemaw was just always working on. Meemaw taught Sunday school for like 900 years, and if Meemaw wasn't garage selling, like running her garage sale or cooking, then Meemaw was working on stuff for the Sunday school class, cutting out scriptures, making little crosses, whatever it is, doing crafts for the kids. Um, or she was reading her Bible. My Meemaw was a devout Pentecostal woman, and she read her Bible every day, studied it. So that left me with Papa. And Papa, as long as I knew Papa, he was always out in his shop. He was welding on something, cleaning something, cutting something up, making something. Or sometimes I think he was just hanging out there so he didn't have to go inside. You know, if he wasn't in his shop out in the carport, then he was probably sitting at the kitchen table with a field and stream and his big box of pills, all his pills. But that day I hung out with Papa. I went over there, and I don't think he quite, he had already had on that side of the family. So on my maternal side, I'm the oldest grandkid, but on that side of the family, I'm like number 8 or something. There's one, two, three. All right, I'm number 4. On that side, I'm number 4. But I have 2 older cousins, Dwayne and Little Paul, who are much older than me. And then my cousin Shane is not that much older than me, maybe 4 or 5 years. So I was kind of standalone for a while because the only other cousin I have that's kind of close to my age is my cousin Amy and my cousin Dominic, and Dominic lives in Florida, so we didn't get to see them that much. Anyways, doesn't matter. You can tell Papa kind of didn't know what to do with me that day, but they tore this house down across the street, old house. I mean, who knows when that house was built? It was an old ramshackle house. It was so old it was falling down. They tore that house down and knocked it down. And Papa just, come on, boy. And we went out there and he walked off. He went off in his shop. His shop was magical. My papa's shop was very small. It was like a little tiny. It was like a closet basically on the back of the carport that he had framed in and covered with corrugated steel, right? And it wasn't very big at all. It was like a tool room, like an old school tool room. And you went in, and all the tools were on pegboard, and they had little outlines to show what tool went there. And then the solvents and stuff were over here. And then over here he had a shelf with fasteners, right? His collection of fasteners and jars and nails and such. And he had his fishing stuff. He had his fishing rods up there and his fishing tackle. And then he had a cutout in the side of the tool room where he could drive his Craftsman lawnmower right in there. And it would be out of the elements and protected. Nobody could steal it and be locked up, had a little trap door and everything. Little workbench. And then when you come out of the tool room in the breezeway between the tool room and the house underneath the carport, there was a workbench. And on that workbench, he had a bench grinder and a vise mounted. And then if you walked out in the backyard, there was another carport on the back. And then if you went to the left, there was an old refrigerator on its back that he kept compost in. That was his worm garden. That's where he got his worms for fishing when he wanted to use worms to go fishing. There's a big old oak tree back there. And my dad, when he was a teenager, had dug a ditch beside the oak tree so that he could pull his car right in there underneath the shade of that. Like a real shade tree mechanic, pull his GTX in there underneath that oak tree, and then he could crawl down in that ditch and change oil. I'm a kid. I'm hanging out with Papaw. Papaw goes off in the tool room. He comes out. He's got this big old glass, good sized pickle jar. It's got the labels torn off. Doesn't look like it's a real old one. The lid's not super rusty. And then he come out with like a big old magnet, like what you seen in the cartoon. Big old horseshoe magnet, except his was all orange. Big old horseshoe magnet. It was on a little piece of twine, about a 4-foot piece of twine. And we walked across the street where they tore that house down. And Papa was a World War II vet, and his second, I think his first or second day in action. It's the same day his twin brother. His twin brother was killed in World War II, not very far from him, storming a machine gun nest. That would have been my great uncle Carl. But that same day, Papa got shot in the back with a 50 caliber gun, and it, of course, broke his back. Went through the lower part of his back and broke his spine. They didn't know everything they know like they know today about surgery and stuff. So what they did was they fused his spine back then, and he spent a good part of the early part of the war laid up in an army hospital. He was what they call a tank gunner, which they were these dudes that walked alongside the tanks with a big old Browning automatic rifle. I don't know if you've ever seen one of them things. It weighed about 9 million pounds. And they would walk alongside the tank. See, what would happen was the Germans, if I remember this right, the Germans would lay in the ditch with a grenade. And when the tank come running up, they would roll out of the ditch and slide up under the tank, stick a grenade. I guess there was a vent or something they could stick the grenade in, and of course, kill our tank operators and shut the tank down. So what Papaw and his people's job was walk alongside and light these dudes up in the ditch and keep them from blowing the tanks up. He's a tough old bird. But he spent a large part of the first part of the war in an army hospital, laid up in Germany, getting his back fixed and everything. And as a result of them fusing his spine, he couldn't really bend over at the waist. I mean, he could kind of, but not. He didn't have like a lot of range and movement. And so that's what he had done was he put that magnet on a string so he didn't have to bend over. And we would walk around. He'd give me a little old, like a trowel, and I would move the wood and the junk around from that old house, just scuffing stuff out of the way. And he'd run his magnet through there and get a whole bunch of nails on that magnet, them old nails, with weird looking heads and stuff. And then I would hold the pickle jar, and he would pull all the nails off the magnet and put them in that pickle jar. I don't know how long we were out there. I know it was summertime. It was a little hot, Kilgore, Texas. Sun was beating down, and we would just pick up those nails. Papaw would make a little joke. Oh, boy, look at that. Move that log over there. Oh, boy. Oh, put your back into it now. Pull it out the way. And I would do whatever he told me to do. I was excited to be spending time with him. I remember he laughed a lot. Like, I know that's not the memory other people have of him, but when he was with me, he laughed a lot. He had this big, deep, like throaty laugh, and I love the way he laughed. And we pick up them nails all day, and we put them nails in that pickle jar all day, maybe an hour or two. And we worked over there until we filled that pickle jar up with rusty old bent up nails out of this old torn down house. And of course, we walked back across the road and went over there, that workbench in the carport. And Papaw took that lid off that pickle jar and just dumped all them nails out right there. I remember he had a big welding shield he put on me, like a big a grinding shield, like old school one, and I had it over my face. And we would take those nails. He got a pair of pliers, and we'd take those nails and we'd put them in that vise, and then just little movements with the vise, not like crazy. We wouldn't try to bend them all at once because then they might break or whatever. But he would just put them in that vise and just tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, tighten it until he got that nail pretty straight and true. If the head was damaged, he might take the head on the bench grinder and flatten the head out a little better. He's meticulous. Then we'd take it pliers and go on that wire wheel, and we'd clean that nail all up to look brand new. And then he'd take it and he'd sharpen that nail a little bit. He'd take some rag and he'd wipe that pickle jar out real good and got all the rust out of it and put that nail in there. And then he started letting me do the vise, let me straighten the nails up. And so I started straightening the nails up for him. He'd sharpen them, clean them, put them in the jar. I don't know how long it took. It felt like all day that if you look between the bench grinder and the vise where all the nails was, there was just a pile of rust, just a rust pile. Of course, Papa take a little old Folgers can and a little broom, swept all that Folgers off there, And then he ground that rust up, smashed that rust up. He was going to do something with it. To this day, I don't know what he did with that can of rust, can of oxide. Maybe he's making whitewash with it, milk blood paint. I don't know. I don't know what the old man was doing with the can of rust, but he saved the can of rust in a Folgers can, squirreled it away off in his tool shed. He was Depression era people. He didn't like disposable things. That's not his shit, you know. And we cleaned all the rest of them nails up. And we got done. It was a pickle jar. It was just full of all them brand new, clean, shiny, straight, freshly sharpened nails, all different sizes and whatnot. Not as much variety as you'd see now, because back then they just didn't have as much variety when they was building the house. A lot of ring shank nails, you know, because that's ring shanks are where it's at, baby. You want to build a strong house using ring shank. And he'd tell me about the different kind of nails and stuff. And then we got done making all them nails. He put them up in there on the shelf with his other fasteners. And we cleaned up the tools and put the tools back up. And then he went in his bedroom. He come back out and he gave me this pocket knife. He said when he was in the war, the real good knife maker in Germany was a company called Solingen. He called them eye knives because they had like a little eyeball design on them. And he gave me this Solingen pocket knife. And he showed me how to sharpen it. And you know, kids are kids. I lost that knife somewhere along the way. I wish I had, but I broke it, and I may still have it, but I broke the tip on it using it wrong, but it was a Soligen eye knife, pocket knife, had like a wood grain handle. He gave me that knife, and I think he was going to do the oil on his lawnmower. So he said back then he drove old brick nose Ford truck. He always drove Ford trucks. Papa. Long as I remember, as long as I knew Papa drove Ford. Papa was a Ford man. You know, he bought a Toyota for his wife. He bought a Toyota pickup for his wife, and he liked that little Toyota pickup. But he drove a Ford as long as I knew. In fact, the last thing he had before he passed on was a old Eddie Bauer Ford Explorer. You know, he drove Ford as long as I knew him. Usually had him at F-150. We had this old brick nose F-150. And we got in that truck. We was going to go to Walmart. I remember we was going down Highway 31. We was probably running about 60 miles an hour. Papa rammed on that gas on. Whoa! You know, it shifted down. Whoa! Pinned you back in the seat. At least I was a kid, you know, felt fast to me. Papa lean over, look over me and laugh. Well, boy, you got to test out that passing gear every once in a while. Keep them valves clean. You got to test out that passing gear, but you got to make sure that passing gear works. We go to Walmart, we get some oil and stuff for his lawnmower. Of course, we go back and hang out with him while he changes the oil in his lawnmower, and I hold a rag. And the whole time, I mean, his sayings the whole time, boy, I think I ain't never burned a drop of oil. Boy, it's been a good lawnmower. I had that lawnmower 25 years. It was a good lawnmower. I ain't never burned a drop of oil. It's just a good day, man. It's just a good day, you know. I went fishing with him, you know, a couple times, but this day, lives in my head. And years later, as an adult, when he passed, I just remember seeing my cousins, and they were all worked up about his. He had a big gun collection. They were all worked up about his guns and his who's going to get his fishing gear and all his Zebcos. He loved Zebco 33, Zebco Classics. He had really nice ones. And who was going to get all that? And they had his tool room open, which felt like an invasion to me, man. It felt like we're not supposed to go in there, you know. But I walked off in there, and I seen that damn pickle jar with them nails in it. And I took it. I was driving that little Datsun 280Z at the time. And I took it. I stuck it in the back of that Datsun 280Z. And I drug that little jar of nails around with me from house to house. I never used a single nail out of it. Drug that jar of nails around with me, I don't know how many places. You know, one day, me and Rachel was getting ready to move. We were living in Conroe at the time. We were getting ready to move to Willis, and I was out there packing my garage up, and I had a little aquarium with a little alligator snapping turtle in it, and with Biggie Smalls, my little alligator snapping turtle, and I had a little soft shell turtle in there that we called Jack Cousteau, and because I had a little snorkel, and I was cleaning up stuff around that aquarium, and I accidentally bumped that damn jar, and that jar hit the concrete and busted, and freaking nails went everywhere. Of course, I was distraught. There was a lot going on at the time. It was at that point, it had just been a few months since my mother had died. I was a mess. We cleaned all those nails up, all the glass up, and I don't know why, but I pick all them nails up and I put them. I had a clear plastic jar thing that, like the cheese puffs from Sam's Club come in, a little purple lid, and I put all them nails in that jar. And I put a piece of masking tape and wrote "good nails for whoever needs them." And I left them. In that rent house. I guess my fantasy, I like to think somebody found them nails, just went to town, man, just built all kind of things with them nails. Who knows? That's what I choose to believe, anyways. I say it a lot. I know you guys have heard me say it before, but I always say that the most valuable thing you can give somebody is your time. And Papaw gave me his time that day, Whatever we did, we did. Wish I still had that little Sola Janai knife, pocket knife, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Nothing's meant forever. But if you're fortunate, at some point, the people you love in your life, you get a chance to pick up some nails with them. And I'm very fortunate with the people I love in my life. I get that time. And I tell you guys what, we're getting down to the bottom of the first hour here. And I have a surprise for y'all. We've been fortunate enough here at the Wrecking Yard Podcast to connect with the leading meteorologist on the Gulf Coast, and he's here to give us our Wrecking Yard weather update for the week. Let's see if we're patched through. Let me see here. Wendell, are you there?
I'm here, and I'm just as beautiful as the good Lord intended.
There he is, everybody. Houston's premier meteorologist, Wendell Wiggins.
Yes, sir, I got your weather right here on the ready. You ain't got to read nothing, just listen if you will. Moving into the next week, if you don't like cold weather, you about to hit some hard times, baby. I've been observing the vorticification of the north and south jet streams, and according to the data that we're seeing now, the possibility for one big old Arctic blast to come blow up our dress is real, baby. We got temperatures lower than a well digger's shoes, baby, in the Lone Star State, with the highest chance for precipitations coming on Tuesday night. We even got the possibility for some snow flurries right here in H-Town, baby. With the atmosphere freezing all the way to the ground, sleet is at least likely. And I'm here to tell you, if that happens, stay your ass home, baby. Ain't none of us know how to drive in this mess, and we ain't got the tires for it no how. Make sure you go get your bread and your milk, because Lord knows with such a point at the helm, we're liable to all be sitting in the dark shivering next week. You better find you a agreeable, snuggling partner, daddy. Don't wait till next week, because they'll all be taken. I'm Wendell Wiggins, and I reckon that's your Gulf Coast weather.
You really think there's a possibility for a freeze out like that, Wendell?
Son, I have you know I didn't go to the Beaumont School of Meteorology to not know what I'm talking about.
Sorry. Wasn't trying to rile you up or question your authority.
Girl, who's this man think he is questioning me right now? Well, I don't trust a man who wears a hat indoors.
Hey, Wendell, you're still mic'd up.
Shoot, baby, I know I am.
All right, Wendell Wiggins, everybody. And that's our weather for the next week. So bundle up, Texans. It's going to get a little frosty out there. Now, one of my personal favorite new segments here at the Wrecking Yard Podcast, we're calling it Wrecking Yard Radio. And basically, every week I'm gonna pick a song that means something to me and tell you a little bit about it. Why? You know, I'll give you a little history on the song, a little history on the musician. We're gonna talk about a little bit of world music news here and there. Today's song is a sad one, but I don't know why. I mean, I know why it's a sad song. I don't know why the person I learned it from, I don't know what they were sad about. And I'll just have to explain it to you. But let's talk a little bit about the song. It come out in 1984. Come out in 1984. I just want to make sure I got that right. Yeah, okay, that's right. All right, it came out in 1984. It was on an album called All in the Game by Merle Haggard. And of course, his backing band, The Strangers. And the song, y'all may have heard me talk about before. The song is called Looking for a Place to Fall Apart. Merle Haggard and, of course, the great Janie Frick singing on it. In early like 1983, Freddie Powers, who's a big songwriter, and Willie Nelson was driving around Austin, Texas, you know, probably burning a little jazz cabbage. They was throwing lines out. They had this idea for a song, and all they had was like this hook, looking for a place to fall apart, and I need to be hiding when I feel the teardrops start. They had this line, and they were throwing lines back and forth as creatives often do. Me and stand-up comics do this when we ride together in the car. We throw lines out. We look for the bit. That's probably token on a number. You know, just cruise around Austin. If you can imagine what Austin was like in 1983, it was kind of wild. And they were throwing these lines back and forth. They were trying to, you know, they had this idea for a song. And sometimes that's the way creativity works. You get a piece of something you like, and when you can't find the rest of it right there, you just tuck it away until you find the rest of it. I do it with jokes all the time. I know musicians, me and my buddy Jeff Canada talk about this all the time. He's a great country singer. And sometimes you just got a little piece of something. You tuck that away in your little creative satchel till you find the rest of it. course, lo and behold, there's a bus trip with Merle Haggard after that. And of course, on that bus trip's where they wrote the song "Let's Chase Each Other Around the Bedroom" and a couple other hits, and it was kind of infamous bus trip. But Freddie Powers and Merle, they end up hanging out together at the Opryland Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where they're shacked up after that one little tour is all said and done. Merle's not in a good place right now. Merle's going through it, bub. Merle and Leona Williams are getting divorced, and he's just heartbroken. You know, he loved that old gal, and he's just heartbroken. He's a mess, and probably about as sad as he'd ever been. You know, and he told Freddie, he said he was writing all kind of songs about Leah at that time. He was writing all his songs about Leona Williams. That's who he was writing about. He was in it, buddy. You know, you had your heart just wrenched out and tossed across the field. You know how the man was just hurting, bro. And he tells Freddie, he says, "Man, I need to write her one more song. Tell her how I feel. For me to finalize it in my head and just move on." Freddie said, "Man, I got an idea, Bubba. It's old writing exercise. Here's what you do. Just forget about melodies and forget about rhymes. I just want you to write her a letter and just tell her. Just tell her what all's in your mind. Just tell her. Just write her this letter." Boy, I must have struck old Mighty Merle some kind of way, just a right way, because Freddie said Merle just sort of back off to his room and just scurrying away, just writing this letter to Leona. The very first line of the letter was, "Leona, I'll probably never see you eye to eye again." Right? That's the first line of the letter. He writes that line. One of the best lyrics. If you're familiar, it's the first line of the song. "I'll probably never see you eye to eye again." And Merle, when they talked to him about an interview, Merle said they extracted the rest of that song from the letter. And basically the whole rest of that song, aside from the hook, comes from this letter he writes Leona, right? And he was in love with the way they wrote it. He said it was different than anything he'd ever written in his life, but he said it was so uncontrived and natural. And Freddie said when they got done writing the song and they were singing it, and he said Merle was happy. He said Merle let a big old laugh, just laughed, and took that letter and set that letter on fire, burnt that letter up. They recorded it at the 1111 studio right there in Nashville. And Merle called great Janie Frick. If you don't know Janie, she was on Dukes of Hazzard. She's a songwriter, producer. Janie Frick's a bad lady, man. And he called. It was his idea. He said, "I want Janie Frick come in," and at first he wanted her to just come in and kind of sing backing vocals on the back end of it. But he said he was feeling some kind of way when she came in the studio that day. And Janie said he told her, he said, "Don't pick a line and sing harmony with it. I just want you to go in there and shut your eyes and just feel it. Just feel the music." And if you've heard the song, boy, you know she did, Bubba. She went in there and it just hammered it, you know. The song clobbered the country music charts in February of 1985. Just rose to the pinnacle of the country music charts, was destroying after the album "It's All in the Game" was released. The song to this day is one of my favorites by Merle. I know most, if not all, of his catalog. I'm a huge Mighty Merle fan, mostly because of Uncle Bobby. But Merle's one of my favorite songwriters and artists. I think he's one of the most prolific songwriters of the 20th century, to be honest with you. I remember the first time I heard the song, though, and it wasn't in 1985. I think it would have had to be the summer of 1990. I've told you I would go and stay with Papa and Granny during the summers. My birthday's in the summer. It's in July, right after Independence Day. It's got to be 1990. I was getting ready to turn 13 years old. My birthday's right after Independence Day here in the States. And my granny and my sister had already headed up to Lake. So my grandparents, my granny and my papa, and then my nanny, who was my granny's sister, and her husband, Uncle Corby. They had these two old lake lots right beside each other, and they had these two old lake barges. I told y'all about them old pontoon wooden lake barges, and they had two of them out there. And Granny and Papa had an old fifth wheel camper that they'd pull out there, and they'd just stay out there most of the summer. Papa would come into town to go to work, but when he'd get off work, he'd drive on out there to the lake if he didn't have to go by the house for something. And sometimes Granny and Kimberly was doing stuff. They would go on the lake. I was kind of older by then. I could stay there at the house by myself. I mean, I wouldn't leave my 12-year-old alone, but they did. And I was usually playing my little buddy Nathan, playing out in the backyard, watching movies, whatever. And Papa was going to have to come home after work. I'm trying to remember if he was picking up the boat that day. I don't remember if he was picking up the boat or not. Papa was going to have to come home after work. And Papa was going to pick me up at that little house in Lever's Chapel. I was going to ride out to Lake Tyler to meet Granny and Kimberly was already out there. They were getting stuff ready for my birthday. We was going to have my little birthday party at the lake. We was going to have a good time all weekend. We was going to, my nanny, Merle, she had a fireworks stand at the time, and her grandsons, my cousins Ricky and Tony, they came out there at the lake all the time too. Me and Ricky still very close today. Ricky's my gaming buddy. We played Grand Theft Auto all the time. But Nanny had fireworks stand. That was one of her little businesses she had, and she was gonna bring fireworks for everybody. Man, she'd get these there was this big old red tube, like an octagon shaped tube. Boy, it had just about every kind of firework you could imagine. M80s, all of it, man. Had the best stuff. Bottle rockets, Roman candles, sparkler, all the goodies. Whistling chasers, all of it, man. Little black snakes. I think I was watching Smokey and the Bandit on the TV when I heard Papa pull up in that El Camino at the house. He come in there and went back in the bedroom, fussed around a little bit, put on a different shirt. Went in the kitchen, fussed around a little bit. All right, boy, let's get out the lake. I liked riding with him, man. I didn't always get to ride with Papa Clark. This is back when Papa had that black 1978 El Camino. I like that car. I told you, I loved that car when I was a kid, man. It was cool looking. We get in that old El Camino. We start heading out, bub. We're gonna I don't know how far it is from Lever's Chapel to Tyler, but they would kind of go the back way. They'd go out and catch 42 off into Overton and on through ARP into White House into Tyler, out there to the lake. Papa was driving El Camino. I was in the passenger seat. He had a country music station going. He always had that country. I think it was 95.7 back then, but I might be wrong. This up in East Texas. I think it was 95.7. It was either that or it was 93Q. I can't remember. But we was headed down. We pulled off that dirt road in Lever's Chapel and made our way up to Sexton Road. He hung left on 42 and put that old hammer down, and we was on the road like two outlaws ready to run, you know. Me and Papaw. Papaw's boy and Papaw. I remember that song by Waylon Jennings at the time. It was called Wrong. And it was real popular. It was real big. They played it on the radio all the time. It was a big hit. And Papaw loved that song. He couldn't wait to sing the wrong part every time. Wrong. Every time it come along. And he'd laugh his butt off every time. Right? It was just the funniest shit in the world to him. He pulled off at I remember right after Overton, you come to Art, Texas there, and he pulled off a little food gas station store there on the side of the highway. He got me a Welch's grape soda, cold grape soda. And he got him a big pack of cold bush beer. He stuck it, the El Camino, you can stick stuff right behind that seat there. He stuck that bush beer right behind that seat, popped that lid so he could reach down there and grab him one. It was a different time. He also got him a carton of them Camel filterless cigarettes. He'd buy him a carton every week, and Camel filterless cigarettes. He liked to get them. He liked to get the soft packs because he still put them in his sleeve like them old tough guys from the. I guess he was a tough guy from the 50s. That's why he did it. But you ever see a movie or Grease or whatever? They roll that cigarette pack up there in their sleeve. That's how Papa roll that sleeve up with them soft pack of Camels in there. Keep his lighter right here in his titty pocket. When we got back in that El Camino, we was just thundering along the highway, He's telling me about how all the guys that he worked at E-Tex Welding during the day and doing like inside sales and stuff like that. And he thought it was funny. All the guys at work thought it was funny to say wrong like Waylon did in that song. Every time somebody would spout off some opinion or have something to say about something, and one of them guys in the shop, wrong, And if you don't know the song, go look it up, Wrong by Waylon. It's a funny song, and I don't know why that was funny then. I didn't know why that was funny then. I was still a kid, but I laughed anyways because it was fun when he laughed. He you know. I heard that song Timber, I'm Falling in Love by Patty Loveless come on that day too. And boy, he liked old Patty Loveless. Matter of fact, I like old Patty Loveless too. True story, I asked Patty Loveless to marry me one time when I saw her in concert. I was very intoxicated. And she was real sweet about it. She said she wasn't already married. She'd sure think on it. We was getting a little closer to Lake Tyler, and I remember this song come on, this kind of sad song, but I already knew Merle by that age. I recognize Merle's voice right when he, I probably never see I again. Like and that song came on and started playing. How about turn it up just a little bit? We're right outside of White House, Texas, and White House, Texas used to be a trip when I was a kid because somebody had gone out there at some point in the early '80s or the late '70s and built all these geodesic uh, dome houses that had these crazy skylights and shit on. I don't know if any of them are still out there. There was a mess of them. There were these wild looking houses somebody had built all around out there in White House, Texas. We used to go to what Papa and Granny used to have a snow cone stand in White House, Texas, out there on the way to the lake. And when they used to sell snow cones and barbecue out there time to time over the years, different times. They had all the redneck retirement plans, the snow cones, the fireworks, junk store, barbecue stand, all the big, the big three is probably barbecue, snow cones, and fireworks. That's the big three of East Texas retirement plans right there. They did it all. When I was a kid. I was a pretty observant kid. I was kind of a sensitive kid. I paid attention. I was empathetic to things around me, the way things made me feel, and I know Papa had gotten real quiet, kind of serious. He had his old welding. He used to wear them welding caps. He had his old welding cap, little flowery welding cap on, and he was wearing these. He liked these. I think they're basically KDs. He rode motorcycles all the time, but he liked these. They were like KD style glasses, and they sold them at the welding shop at the welding supply. And these was gold, like gold rimmed, and then they had green tint. And then he had some that had blue too, and he would wear those too. And he was wearing them sunglasses. And, one hand on the wheel of that El Camino with he'd leave his finger on the shifter like that. Of course, we got the windows down. It's July in Texas. Heat's just simmering. Over here, he got that Camel filterless cigarette. Occasionally, he'd reach over there and pat me on the shoulder, have a hand on the wheel with a cigarette like this. He'd mess with me a little bit. Reach over and give me a horse bite on the knee. Oh, you know what horses like? Apples. he got all serious, boy. He was smoking that cigarette, and he got all serious. And just right outside of White House, it was like right after the first big chorus of the song, like after the first big hook, and he pulled over on the side of the. I remember he pulled the El Camino to the side of the road, and you hear the gravel catching in the bouncing off the fenders lightly, and slowed down. There's sound tires making gravel, and he slowed it. He slowed down, and he sat there, old 305, just idling, just boom, 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 and he turned the radio up. He put the car in park, turned the radio up. It felt like that song was like 15 minutes long. It was just playing, and he always had a little stubble on his cheek. He was rubbing the stubble on his cheek, leaning against that window, and had that old bush beer between his legs. And he's smoking that cigarette, taking long drags. I remember being confused, but also knowing I should be quiet. You know, I grew up in a different time. I knew I should be quiet, but I was looking at him, looking for a body signal or something, tell him Pawpaw's all right, and I seen big old teardrop coming down from behind them green tinted sunglasses on his right cheek. When the song ended and the DJ started talking, he reached out there and he turned the radio off. Took a drag off that cigarette and flicked it out into the highway. And took that bush beer and he took one long pull off that bush and just emptied it, crunched that can up a little bit. And I seen him kind of wipe his eye with his right hand right before he throwed that El Camino in gear and slung that El Camino back up on the hydrant. He grinned, looked at me and grinned and tossed that can right over the roof of that El Camino just in time to hit one of them green road signs on the side of the road. It was like magic because he could do it every time. I know littering's not great. Like I said, it was a different time, man. But he could hit that road sign every time. Boy, he grinned right at me and tossed that can over there and hit that road sign. Put that hammer down. He didn't say nothing else. He didn't turn the radio back on. He didn't say nothing else. We got all the way out there to the lake lots in Lake Tyler, and he pulled up behind Granny's car and parked. And when we parked, he leaned over me. He said, "You Pawpaw's boy, right?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Good. Let's go see what your granny's tearing up." This day, I don't know who or what that old man was crying about. Maybe the song just moved him. I mean, he loved music. But years later after he passed, when I was driving that car, sometimes alone at night, I would put my Merle Haggard cassette in, my greatest hits cassette in, and I'd fast forward to that song and just sit somewhere on the side of the road and drink a Welch's grape soda, listen to that music. I'm here to tell you, man. There are few things as powerful as music in the world we inhabit. There are, as far as dragging up a memory, wrenching on your brain, twisting you up. There just ain't much that can do it like music, buddy. There ain't much that can transport you to another time and place like music. And I think that's as good a place to wrap it up for the night. We have some other new segments. There's Wrecking Yard Reads. We're going to be talking about some books and stuff. Uh, we also have one we're going to call Wrecking Yard Road Trip. And that's what I plan to do with it is I'm going to share a video with you, all of me on the road, maybe doing some of my road trips and doing comedy. And but I'm also going to visit some racetracks, some dirt tracks, and some drag tracks and couple drag strips, and I'm gonna visit some wrecking yards, man. I'm gonna go out and find some wrecking yards on the road to go visit, talk to owners, see if they'll let me come out there and film and talk with them a little bit about. We're gonna rate and review some wrecking yards, man. You know what I mean? We're gonna find what we can find. I'm gonna be American Pickers without all the money. So it's American Pickers, but if one dude paid for the whole show himself, that's what it's gonna be. with the help of Everyone Racers podcast and, of course, Pulliam Training Stable. So, yeah, I might even start just rating the wrecking yards I find along the way for y'all, and then that way you know about this place over here and this little place over yonder, and right there, man. This week I'm going to film some. I'm going on the road with my good buddy Sam Miller. You guys are watching this Sunday, so me and Sam are already back. Hopefully, we had great shows. I'm sure we will. But I'm gonna film just about everything I can with me and Sam Miller. We're gonna get some good content out of that, and that'll be our Wrecking Yard road trip segment for next week. Uh, let's do some quick testimonials, if you will, Daddy. These are some comments from episode 30 of season 1 that aired last week. And let's see, I've got them right here. I'm super organized. I've been up all night writing. I'm here for y'all. Oops, I'm on the wrong note. How in the hell did that happen? You've got to be kidding me. Well, I was organized and something got screwed up here. That's all right. We're going to figure it out. Let's see. Come on, buddy. I'll just pull them back up and we'll just go again. How about that? Probably never see you eye to eye. Letters. All right, here we go. Oh, that is the wrong episode. That's my bad, John. At Spencer White 9704. Love this episode. I got the same way with my dad. From 3 to 12, I was his buckaroo. From 12 to 24, he was like, "What the hell's wrong with you, buddy?" We finally, at 23 to 35, got along, but I was always the whipping post. Tell me about it, Bo. Then he got sick and mean for the next 10 years. I was the oldest born son and his biggest sadness because I started building my life. He kept buying projects we would never finish. He would get mad that I had a job and a life and didn't drop everything to build him a vehicle. He's been gone 3 years now and I miss him. Cheers, Jerry. Keep on rolling. Man, my heart's with you, brother. Yeah, that's boy, that line about being his whipping post. I felt like I was his whipping post a lot. Felt like my dad spent a lot of times angry at me because he saw the same things in me that was in himself that he didn't like. Maybe. Man, I appreciate you listening, brother. All right. Oh, our old buddy, old JS texting Jeff. Nice job on the season finale, JW. As always, I enjoyed your stories. Hope that book is still marinating your mind. Keep them coming. Buddy, all I'm thinking about is that book. Bro, if you saw the schedule, this editor sent my manager of shit I have to write and put together over the next year to get a book out. I had no idea I was going to have to work so hard this year to get a book out in 2 years, but holy shit, there's a lot of work coming down the pipeline. Uh, but I'm wildly excited about it. Yes, it's 100%. In fact, I was working on the pitch for it this morning, so I'm wildly excited about it. Yeah, I'm hoping. I just want to make a really, really good book. That's what I want. Let's see. At Jake of all trades, master of fun. You know damn well that hat don't match that vest. You need a suit or a jean shirt. A jean shirt? What am I, Canadian? Jesus. What are you talking about, bro? Jean shirts are for welding, man. You don't wear them nowhere. Jean shirt. Brother, I can wear that hat. That's how good that hat is. I can wear that hat with a pink tutu and rainbow gloves. That hat would still look good as hell, baby. Don't tell me a hat don't match shit. That hat look good as shit with that vest, son. Don't be hating. All right, there's a testimonials. Testimonials. Boogity boogity. Boogity boogity. Oh, this is a different format. It's gonna be a little shorter this week until I get the hang of this, but I hope you guys anyways. I hope you enjoyed some of the new. And I really hope you've had a peaceful Sunday. I like peaceful Sundays. I probably just got home from Dallas and gearing up for the production week and also my travel to Louisville, Kentucky next week. I'll be headed to Louisville. Excited about that. I'm rooting for y'all, man. I'll tell you that until you believe it. There's room at the table for all of us. I'm rooting for whatever keeps your ember alive. Pursue it with whatever passion you have to spare after taking care of business. But I am rooting for you, man. 100%. I think that's where we'll close it for the week, guys. I'm JW, and I love you. Send me word. Tell me why. I need some final proof to show my heart. I'll be somewhere between I love you and what you're feeling now. Looking for a place to fall apart.